record the session. And yes, so I hope you guys are all well and you're fully into the semester now and all your assessments are starting. And yes, not long to go. It always comes quicker than you think. So what I want to do this evening is to cover some of the key learning areas of Learning Unit 3, which is Chapter 4 in your textbook. This is segmentation, targeting, and positioning. And then thereafter, I want to just briefly introduce you to your portfolio of evidence. Now that we've got a little bit of clarity on it, my goodness, there was some serious queries and questions regarding it, but it's all been clarified, which is excellent. And yes, for you guys to kind of query, ask me some questions about the content as well. So what I am hoping has happened is that you guys have been able to view those videos that I sent you last week, because they really are outstanding. They are probably the best way of learning this module. So that's really the plan, as you've seen in the timetable, where I'll send you some videos and then we kind of pick them out and discuss any of the key learning areas that you guys feel you need a little bit more explanation on. So let's jump right in, unless anybody has something to say up front. And please always, feel free just to kind of put your hand up, chat, write a message, and we'll try and go through that way. But Learning Unit 3 is Chapter 4 of your textbook, and it's looking at segmentation, targeting, and positioning. And I sent you guys 3 different videos last week on those aspects. The slide I'm showing you now is really what I showed you in the very beginning, how marketing is the combination of economics and psychology. And then this slide that I also showed you in the very beginning, sorry, it's taking a while to turn. This again is our syllabus on a page. So what we have already done is we have looked at marketing and what it is and its function. We have looked at the environment, and also we have looked at customer decision making, and that's what we ended off with in our last online collab. Tonight, if we look at the right side of the slide, we are going to look at what we call target marketing. And hopefully, as I say, if you guys have looked at your videos, segmentation, targeting, or positioning, STP marketing we call it, is the core, one of the core elements of marketing strategy. So companies firstly get their segmentation, targeting, positioning correct before they then go and develop a product strategy, a price strategy, a distribution strategy, and a promotion strategy. So this always happens before any of the strategies are put into place. And this slide is really about telling us what each one of those elements are. And you will see from the videos that I showed you last week that we kind of have used cars as an example. And I'm going to use the same example as we go through tonight, talking about cars. But let's have a look at each one and decide kind of what it is. So when marketers are looking at their markets and deciding what customers they want to focus on, the first thing that they do is they divide people into groups. And this is something that happens ordinarily in life and business, but essentially segmentation is dividing people into groups that have common needs. So we're looking at the left-hand side of the slide here. And these are people who not only have common needs or sometimes look the same, or they live in the same place, or they behave the same way, or they have the same type of lifestyle, but these are people that then will respond to the marketing strategy in the same way. So here we can see, if we go back to the slide, that the market that is chosen by the company is very important, because then the strategy that is developed is to meet the common needs of that market. So segmentation is the very first part of the ST process, and that is where companies try to decide how they're going to group people, how they're going to make sense of different groups of people who have different wants and needs. I want to go and I'll come back to this slide, but if we look at what we call the variables in the segmentation process, so how do companies group people? Well, there's all sorts of ways, and just because we're learning and we have to have a way to understand theory, we break them up into 4 different categories. So we say that marketers can group people by what we call demographic variables. So this is age and gender and life and family size and income. Income's a big one. Education sometimes, social class, religion, but these are factors where you can actually physically almost see and put people into groups. Geographic variables are where marketers group people depending on where they live. Do they live in rural areas, urban areas? Do they live in cities? What type of climate might they have? It obviously transcends to different countries. Uber has many geographic variables because they are so spread out around the world, just to give you an example. Companies also group people by what we call psychographics, and these are different types of how we live our lives, personalities. Are you a go-getter? Are you very sporty? Are you very active? What motivates you? And they can also group people in terms of how they use a product or a service. Are you extremely loyal? Do you buy it regularly? Do you buy it infrequently? How price sensitive are you? And those kind of variables are used once a customer purchases a brand or a product. So when we talk about segmentation here, we are saying there are a number of different segmentation variables that we can use to group people who are similar in terms of their common needs. So that when we talk about segmentation variables, that is exactly what we are saying. And I'm not going to go through the stages of segmentation, targeting, and positioning. Suffice to say that segmentation comes first, then targeting, and then positioning. That's not relevant for you, nor is because your POE, and we'll get onto that a little bit later, is very, very application based. We don't really need to understand and go into the advantages and disadvantages of segmentation. That's very academic for you. So what I wanted to use the car example in line with our videos and just look at some of the ways that a car manufacturer would segment a market. And I've just got these on the screen for you now. If we take 3 different groups, we can take, say, a student. A student generally has a low to middle income. They are looking for an affordability type product. They are looking for fuel efficiency. They are looking for transportation that is easy to service, it is cost effective to service, etc. So that is a group of people that have very similar needs. Another group of people would be, say, sports fanatics. So sports fanatics could be higher income individuals. They are, from a psychographic perspective, they are thrill seeking. Their needs are very much along the lines that there would be transporting sports equipment here and there. So also very specific needs. And then you would get, say, the businessman, a higher income businessman who is looking for style, luxury, etc. In a car, not just affordability or not something that you can transport various equipment. So these are some of the ways that you could segment a market. So if we go and have a look here, we could see that the car on the left, a nice Toyota Prado, is a 4x4 luxury car. It's got style, performance. This would be very much a high income group of people, and Toyota would be marketing it to, say, sports enthusiasts, thrill seekers, people who go on adventures. The middle, that's your Lexus. That is a very high-end luxury car, higher income group, people who want the same style, who want style and grace, comfort, performance, etc. And there we have our little Toyota Etios, and this is your small, affordable car for, say, a student, like I've just talked about, people who are looking for value, efficiency, who are generally lower to middle income group, and where affordability is quite an issue. So these are three segments of a market that Toyota has designed specific products and services for already. And they have segmented those groups of people according to their demographics, their psychographics, sometimes their geographics. I want to go back here, but these people have been grouped based on common needs. So that is an example of segmentation. Are there any questions on segmentation before I carry on? Apologies, I had muted my mic, everybody. So what happens when a company has segmented its market? It understands that particular segment, what the people look like, how they behave, where they live, what type of income they have, what their needs are. The second part is to then decide which segments to focus on. So you've grouped people here. Now you're going to choose which one. Yes, we're going to talk about that just now, Jody, what we call the niche market. Yes. So this is how do companies decide which ones to focus on. Very, very infrequently can companies service all markets. So how do they choose? Well, there are a number of different ways. They decide that, and I'm just going to get the theory up for you. There we go. Just getting to the slide. Well, they've got to really make sure that the markets that they choose are big enough, that they're going to make enough money out of them, that they can access these markets. Toyota might have seen a sports car segment, people with very specific needs for a sports car, but then might decide actually that market is not big enough. In the South African market, there's too many competitors. It's a little bit unstable because of the economics of the country. we're not going to focus on that market. So in order for companies to choose, these segments have got to be substantial. They've got to be able to be identified. They've got to be able to access them. And more importantly, they've got to be able to measure them, because they have to decide how much money they're going to make out of these markets. And if we go back to our example here with our Toyotas, now these are 3 specific market segments that have been selected by Toyota. And of course, we know there are lots more, but Toyota has decided that, well, these 3 particular segments are big enough. We can identify them, we can access them, we're going to make lots of money out of these different groups of people, and we have chosen them. So that is essentially what targeting is. And I'm going to go to carry on now to something that Jodie's just brought up. There are different types of targeting. So let's go and have a look at what they are. And this is actually very important for you guys to understand for your portfolio of evidence, but there's different types of approaches to target marketing, and you can see all these little funny examples, and we're sticking to our car theme. But companies can follow what is called an undifferentiated marketing approach. And this is something that was done in the past. In fact, it is a blast from the past. There are very, very few companies that do this anymore. In fact, I don't know one. But this is a marketing strategy where a company decides to develop one product for everybody. Now, immediately as we say that, we think that can't happen anymore. We are too sophisticated. There are too many different people. How can you develop the same product for everybody? Does anybody know what this funny little car is up here? Because it's an excellent example of what we call undifferentiated marketing, where one car, and they were black, they weren't even different colors, were designed for everybody. Ford, yes, the Model T, well done. The Henry Ford's famous Model T. Now, exemplary example of undifferentiated marketing. Does it happen anymore? No, it wouldn't work. Why? Because we are too customized. We are too specific to different needs. So don't use that as an answer in your POE. Okay, that's a big hint. Another target marketing approach that companies use, and this is the most common, this is what is called a differentiated marketing approach, and it's exactly the Toyota example that I've shown you. And this is where companies select different market segments. So in the case of Toyota, there were 3 different market segments. They have been selected, and each market segment has a specific product designed for those customer needs. A pricing strategy specific to that market, promotion strategy specific, and a distribution strategy specific to that market. Differentiated target marketing is probably the most common. And most companies elect to target more than one market and then design their marketing strategy to meet those target market needs. Differentiated marketing, if you gave me a whole lot of companies now, we would probably say that they fall into that type of target marketing approach. And then the next 2 are what we call concentrated marketing. So these are when companies decide to focus on a very specific market segment, so just a very small group of people, and design a fairly specialized product or service for these people. So concentrated marketing and niche marketing are very similar. Niche marketing even smaller, but this is where it is a very specific group of people and a specialized product, carving out. So concentrated marketing a little bit bigger, niche marketing focusing on a very small group of people. There we have, there's our Ferrari. That is a really good example of both concentrated and niche marketing in South Africa. There's all sorts of shops that are very niche marketing too, but it is probably the most common, as I said, target marketing approach is differentiated marketing. Niche marketing, not so much in South Africa. This is really important, as I said, for your POE. So we've grouped people into different groups, segmented the market. We then have chosen, we have targeted the customers we want. We have decided how many segments and what type of customer we are going to focus on. The next part of the process is called product positioning. I just want to read your comment, Jody. Yes, that's a very good, it's a very good example. Yes, so concentrated, very small market segment, niche even, yes, a built-in shower, yeah, quite a thing, but even smaller. So yes, that is a really good example. You can go one step further, by the way. You can go to what is called mass customization. And mass customization is where there almost isn't a product. It is where you go in and your product is completely designed according to what you want. So the Levi shop in the middle of New York now, when you walk into Levi, you don't see a whole lot of stuff on the shelves. You then use artificial intelligence and AI, and you custom make your own pair of jeans. That takes niche marketing and concentrated marketing one step further to design a unique product for you. Okay, so let's go, yes, exactly like that. Anything that is custom made, even if you go into, in fact, Tesla do it now in the States, you can customize, you can customize your own Tesla. A lot of car manufacturers do it actually. But even if you go into a jewelry store and a jeweler will make you something specifically for you, that is what mass customization is all about. Okay, so we've segmented, we've targeted, and now we are going to position our products in the minds of the target market. So this is really important. I want to go back to our little Toyota slide here again. And there, because we've got 3 different markets, we have got 3 different customer groups of needs and 3 different products. Toyota is designing and positioning these 3 different products in the 3 different markets' minds. So it is specific to the market. So let's go and see what product positioning is all about. And this is where, remember when I told you that marketing is a little bit of psychology, messing with our minds? Well, product positioning is how you and I perceive products and brands and companies. And the marketers do this so well. They brainwash us and they make us feel and associate their products and brands with different things. So by virtue of their promotional strategy and their pricing strategy and the products that they design, they are creating our perceptions of their products in our minds. And I've just given you a positioning statement is a written description of kind of how the company wants the target market to see it. And I'll just use a couple of little examples now. So this is how companies mess with our heads. So these are just silly little positioning statements. to kind of get us thinking about different companies and brands. But if we take, we're not going to go through all of these, but if we go to OUTsurance at the top here, and they say you always get something out, immediately, what do we think of when we think of OUTsurance? We think of the fact that, we don't like insurance companies, but OUTsurance isn't ripping us off because they're going to give us a fair deal. They're a great South African company. You always get something out. So that is what they make us think of when they think about their product. What do we think about when we think about a company like Woolworths? What is it that comes to mind? What position do they have in our minds? What have they created? What have they made us think about them? Exactly. They are sustainable. Everything's fresh. Their quality is amazing. Exactly. Now, how do we all think that? Because we are either a customer, generally we're all customers, and we have experienced it, and that's what all our marketing is telling us about Woolworths. They have positioned Woolworths in our minds, as have all these brands and these companies. When we think about Coca-Cola, do you ever think of sad, old, unattractive people? No, we don't. We think that Coca-Cola is joy, it is happiness, and there's fun, and Coca-Cola goes with you through life, and it's been part of our heritage. So we don't have any feelings about that Coca-Cola. I'm not sure what you mean there about coffee, Jody. You might have to explain that a bit to me. I just wanted to give you an example of Toyota's positioning statement. So remember, this is their written statement about how they want the world. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, good coffee is happiness, as is wine. And yeah, a lot of things. But have a look at Toyota's positioning statement, what they say. This is what they want the world to feel about them. Now, when we think of Toyota, I think of reliability, consistency, South African. I mean, it's not South African, as we know, but we can get it serviced here. They're made here, a lot of the models. But this is how companies create this positioning in our minds. So also a very, very strongly sustainable company. I wanted to give you another example. This is Apple. Okay, outdated technology. Interesting. We're talking about Toyota or Apple here. I changed the slide. But I mean, how do we see the Apple group? Oh, Toyota. Okay. I don't know enough about their technology, to be honest. Yes, so what do we think about when we think of Apple? We think about creativity and innovation and high technology and luxury, aspirant brands. I mean, all of us want an iPhone, let's be honest. Every single young child wants an iPhone. And yes, they're completely overpriced. Completely, but we still aspire to have it. Why? Because that's the position in our minds. Oh, an iPhone, the best, luxury, fantastic features and benefits. So basically, positioning is about brainwashing us. How do companies want their target markets to see them? And they position differently. You can have a company positioning as a whole. You can have a certain brand. You can have a certain product. There's different levels. But for our sake, in learning in our first year of marketing, we only really look at positioning in general. What's important for you to understand for your portfolio of evidence as well is that companies use different ways that we learn theoretically to position in our minds. And this is important as well because you will have to decide what kind of positioning method your company that you choose has used. So let's have a look at some of the positioning methods that companies use. Well, the first one is what we call attribute positioning. So this is where companies position in their minds, they want us to think that their product or their brand has something outstanding about it. Now, I've used a very controversial one there, which is a cigarette. But I don't know if there are any smokers amongst us. I'm not one of them. But smokers around the world, not just South Africans, are extremely brand loyal in terms of their product and brand. And here, Benson & Hedges, the outstanding attribute that they use is in terms of lightness and taste. I do not know personally about that. If we look at KFC, we all know about KFC. Maybe we're more KFC customers online tonight instead of smokers. But the outstanding attribute there would be taste. You know, they used to be figure looking but good. They've actually repositioned. We don't really need to talk about repositioning, but it's very interesting. You say a whole family full of smokers. Okay, that's so interesting. It's very, very difficult to stop smoking when you're a smoker, I believe. My mum is one. Got a few friends, but my goodness, are smokers brand loyal. So attribute positioning is one of the outstanding elements of a brand. Companies can also position in terms of the benefits that their product provides. So there I've used the example of Gillette. This is about what is unique about Gillette compared to its competitors in the market. Now, Gillette says that they give you their unique benefit is an even closer shave. So benefit positioning is what are the actual benefits that our product gives better than competitors. Companies can also position based on what we call use or application, i.e. this is how you would use the particular product or apply it in a particular way. Is it possible for our POE? Can we get to that? But the answer is yes, you could. Yes. It does say that, you know, choose your positioning, but you could use more than one, definitely. And Jodie, I think you were referring to Gillette there. Okay, work well with sensitive skin. So let's have a look. Okay, good. I was about to go on to wine. So the use or application is how we would use the particular product. And I don't know if you can see that tiny little picture in the right there is actually a SMEG kettle. So this user positioning here is very much along the lines of how user positioning is we have kettles and we have kettles. And if you have a SMEG kettle, it is so much more than just a kettle. In fact, it is a work of art in the kitchen. It's a fashion statement. It's an attribute in your kitchen. So user positioning and use application positioning is very much based on the type of product in the particular environment that it is used. We also, going back to user positioning again, it's how we would use the product. So SMEG is an example of that, but let's take Red Bull as an even better example. So this is positioned to appeal to the real thrill seekers. I mean, Red Bull's entire marketing strategy is all about those real daredevils jumping off mountains with no wings in those funny suits, and anybody who is involved in an extreme sport in terms of user positioning. Companies can also position based on competitors, how they are better versus their competitors. Pepsi and Cola do it horrifically outside of South Africa. You're actually not allowed to have what is called competitor marketing in this country, i.e. you cannot slate your competitor, unlike America, where Pepsi and Coca-Cola slate each other all the time. But here on the right here, it's very small on my side. I'm hoping you can see there's Nespresso. This is saying if you look at all the Nespresso positioning, it is very much, well, we are so much better than our competitors. Like you have to have an Nespresso machine, and anything else is very second best. Another way the companies position is in terms of the product category. This is something like it would be a family Porsche or a student bank account or something like that. You know, what type of product for a particular market. So it can also position, so product category positioning is also used for companies that are not really associated with that type of product. Porsche in the past was only associated with sports cars, and now you have mommy cars. You have the Porsche Carrera, or something like that. I actually can't remember the exact name of the 7-seater SUV. And then the final type of positioning that companies use is what is called quality versus price. So either positioned on quality or either very positioned on price. And I mean, Woolworths glare is a blinding glimpse of the obvious there in terms of quality. A good example of the other end of the spectrum in South Africa would be Pep stores. They are completely positioned in terms of, they never say cheap. That is a very bad word in marketing. You use value for money. So you position on both quality and price. And as has just been identified, are there combinations of positioning methods? Of course. Affordable, even better, Louise. Even better wording. Value for money and affordable. So those are the different types of positioning methods that companies can use. I'm not going to go into some of the mistakes. You do not need to know that theory going forward, but companies do make some terrible positioning mistakes. If we had lots of time, we could go into that in a big way. Are there any questions about segmentation, targeting, and positioning, STP? And in that order, it always goes segmentation first. You group your people in terms of needs and the fact that they will respond to the same marketing strategy. You then choose them, you target specific groups, and then you brainwash those groups and you put the perceptions of your company or product in the mind of that target market. Any questions on that? Oh, good. I'm so glad. You know, I wish we had lots of time, because my goodness, could we have a lot of fun, especially on this particular area. But suffice to say that this is probably one of the most important parts of marketing. And if you get this part wrong, you are going to be in trouble. Your entire marketing strategy will be incorrect. Okay. If there are no questions so far, just quickly before I forget, if you haven't watched those videos, that I sent you, please watch them. I think they're about 8 minutes, or the longest of the 3 is 8 minutes, but they are so good, really, and they just make sense, and they're easy, and they really will help you, because we're going to go into kind of introducing your POE now. But probably the most important thing of this POE is that it is application. We do not want to see that you can regurgitate the textbook, or that you know the downsides of segmentation, or that you know that there have been errors in positioning. We want you to apply this theory to your chosen company. So let's go and have a look at POE in very high level. Okay. So the major confusion initially was it group? Was it partners? Is it individual? My goodness. This is an individual assignment, and there's big benefits for that. Not so much for me, I've got to tell you, but there are for you. And I know it will be more work for you to do individually, but you will really get a very broad understanding of the work by doing it on your own. I see your WhatsApp group is nice and interactive, and that's awesome. Help each other. Ask questions. Use your WhatsApp group to help your peers if you can. But this is an individual POE. So we'll get into the parts now. The other thing is I've said that there is very little theory. It is application based. So you don't get a whole lot of marks for saying segmentation is when you group people into groups that have common needs. You will get marks for actually saying, well, this particular segment looks like this, and these are the variables that they use. We do not give you a template. Yes, I'm coming to that. When we get into the detail of the POE, which we're not going to do tonight, but we will get into that detail in the national support session, then you would probably give a sentence to explain it, Jody, but the application is the most important part. We don't give you a template. We don't say, there you go and put it into this template. You create your own. At the national support session, we will give you some guidance in terms of fonts, etc. But if anybody's looked at this POE document, my goodness, in any form of detail, holy moly, it's long. And so we've got to kind of break it up a bit. But there is no template. Chris, yes, what I do every time we have an online session is I send you the recording, and you can download this as we are speaking. Yeah, but I send you the recording the next day every time. I also load the recording under my resources, under online collabs. You'll go and see it there. So it's always available for you. Probably the most important thing that you need to do now with your POE is to select a company. And this was part of the change of your POE, or the addendum. You will see at the beginning of your POE that it gives you a couple of companies to choose. They have amended that, thank goodness, and they have asked you to select a company or a brand of your choice. My guidance here, and I can't say to you, do this and do that, you have to do it yourself, but my guidance here is to pick a very well-known company that you know, not a brand, and you'll see as we go into part 2 and part 3 of the POE, which we're not going to do, but you will see that this company that you choose in the beginning goes through the whole POE. So choose a company that you know. Choose a company that you can find information on. Also, choose a company that you know customers of, because part of your part one of your portfolio of evidence is to send a survey to 10 customers of your chosen company. So my goodness, you know, some of the companies they gave you as an option there were like, gosh, do you know 10 people? So pick something that is easy, that you know lots of people are customers of. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm sitting in the dark now because it's load shedding, so I'm just trying to bring some of, yes, you know, Nike is a company, yes, you can choose that. I've got things here, I was just thinking out loud. You know, we've got Woolworths, we've got Mr. Price, Sportsman's Warehouse, Nando's, Clicks, Zara, ShopRite, Checkers, Spar, Kauai, The Body Shop, Uber, Toyota. I'll just get to the second part, but know the customers of the company that you choose. Make sure you can find information on the company that you choose, and make sure that you can have access to its marketing material. So the more obscure a company you choose, the more difficult it's going to be for you. Okay, so that's my advice. And then just going to the point, I think it was Jody as well, that in certain parts of your POE, when you are, say you're starting to talk about segmentation, you would then, if you were going to define it, use something from your textbook or maybe another source, you would have to reference your theory. So hopefully you guys have been to the writing center, been on the library courses, etc., and you know how to do that. So referencing is important if you are going to use theory. But right now, to choose your company is quite important. I just wanted to show you briefly that there are 3 parts to this POE. Part 1, which is what is coming at the end of this month, and part 1 has two different parts, and we have, as of tonight, we have covered everything that you need to know for part 1. So that's really nice for you. It encompasses learning units 1 to 3, and we have now finished all our theory for that. So you've got a lot of time to think, etc., which is nice. Part 2 is a 1-task part, and that looks at learning units 4 to 6, and that's at the end of October. And then our final part has actually 3 tasks, task A, B, and C, and that is our final learning unit, which we obviously do a little bit later. But I want to clarify with you guys a little bit about why we're making you do these stepping stones. If you have read the full POE from cover to cover, I think it's 37 pages, my goodness, but it's got so much stuff in it, you know, in terms of appendix and rubrics, etc. But you will see that task C of your final POE is about how much work you've done throughout the semester. So you don't do anything there, I do it. In order to get the marks in this area of your final POE, you have to have completed stepping stones. So the whole essence of this type of assessment is that you've learned along the way. So we thought it would be very kind to make those stepping stones your ICE tasks. So instead of adding more ICE tasks to that, we have used those stepping stones to count both for your POE and for your ICE tasks. So that's why you are doing these stepping stone activities that are different to your other modules. I'm sure that you will see that this POE is very different to your other modules. It's actually very new, and it's a very different way of assessing marketing, but I think that you would enjoy it more. So that's the reason why you have all those stepping stones to do, and those constitute your ICE tasks. So in terms of the mark allocation for the whole POE, part 1 is 100 marks, part 2 and part 3. So it's really out of 300 marks. And there you can see at the bottom of the screen that part 1 is 2 tasks. And you know how, that's where I say to my children as well as students, how do you eat the elephant in bite-sized chunks? Because this seems like an elephant, but it isn't. It's in parts. No, you can't, Jody. That's actually a good question. Let's go and have a look at the part 1. Okay. So, and I'll explain why the answer to your question. So let's have a look at part 1. And here we have 2 different tasks. So the first task is, do we get marked? No. They are purely for completion. You don't get like 3 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 or whatever. They are purely to make sure that you engage with the material, and that we get an understanding that you are understanding the material. So just say, to give you an example, I know because you were asking me a day or so ago, okay, I think it was stepping stone 1.3.1, and you put 1 word answer. I would give you a 0 for that. I would say you hadn't completed it. And you were asking me, well, how long are they? No, it's just really about engaging with the material. But we don't give you oh, you got 9 out of 10 or you got 4 out of 5, whatever. We just have to make sure that you have engaged and understood the material. I hope that helps. Okay, so let's go back to part 1. So the first task is to do a little bit of research, which is quite nice, to do a survey on 10 people that you know. You cannot approach strangers. It's all got to do with ethical research, and my goodness, it gets very complicated. I lecture on the honours program, and we've got to be very, very careful with this. So you've got to survey people that you know, and the survey has to be people that use the particular company and products within the company that you have chosen. So that's why I'm saying be careful on the company that you choose, because you've got to know at least 10 people that have used the particular product. So let's go to Jodie's questions. In your POE, you will see that they have given you a specific list of questions. I advise you strongly to only use those. And I don't know if you have done any research before in any shape or form, but the simpler and the closer you work to format, the easier it is for you. So I would advise you not to use any other questions than you have been given. We're not even going to change them. And only 1 survey. So Jodie, you must be thinking about something gender-wise. Choose 1, because remember, you're on a word count here as well. And try and make it as simple as possible for you. So that is task A. You're going to do a little bit of a survey, and then you're going to write it up in a report. And the detail will come later in the national support session, but also your POE is very detailed here. It gives you the structure of the report. It gives you, and don't deviate from that. If it says introduction, then we talk about that. And so we will follow the exact guidelines given in the portfolio of evidence. So that's your first task, a survey, and then you write it up in report format. The specific categories and the specific parts of that report are detailed in the POE. The second part is an essay, and we'll also talk about the format of an essay in the national support session, but we kind of know that. It is about applying what we've done tonight, segmentation, targeting, and positioning decisions to your chosen company. And this is quite a nice one. I think you're really going to enjoy this. I really do. It's a wonderful way to assess people. And split mark-wise, we mark you 50 marks for the first one and 50 marks for the second. I just wanted to, we've kind of talked about this as well. So task A is customer research. The POE specifically guides you as to what to use. It is a written report broken into the first part 400 and the words, and the second part 300. Be very careful about word count. We are strict about word count. We do not want books here. We want you to stick specifically to the word count. As I said, your task B is a written essay. The specific format is given. Part of that is to include an advert of your chosen company, and that's why I said to you, choose a company or a brand that you have access to information. You know, again, if you go into the detail of your POE, it could be a written advert, it could be a TV advert, it could be any sort of type of advert, but you would need to include that. As I said, the structure of that essay is given, and there is your word count, 850 to 1,000 words. So be very careful on the word count. That is really important. Then then task 2, what we do, so part 2, we then take the company that you've used for part 1, and then we do the whole product, price, and promotional strategy for that company as well for a new product that you choose. So actually the POE is very nice. It's very nice. We just have to break it up into parts that we don't feel so terrified about. Is everybody feeling happy with this POE? Are there any major concerns first? No, don't be, Masood. Is that how I say your name? Masood. No. There's lots of information. Think about it. If you choose, I'm trying to think of a company, choose Clicks, you go and have a look online, you'll see all sorts of different adverts for Clicks. So that part is not the difficult part unless you choose something completely obscure. And that's why I'm advising you to follow this very, very sort of simple. No, you use an existing advert in part 1. We're only looking at part 1 now. You find an advert and you add it. But go and have a look at exactly what the POE says. As I say, I'm sitting in the dark now and only have my screen, so I can't even tell you what page it's on because I can't really see. But go and have a look. Yes, and we definitely use an existing advert. It's much later, but we're not going to worry about the other bites. We're only taking 2 bites of the elephant tonight. But I'm hoping this helps you kind of begin your, yes, it can. It can be any company of your choosing. The only constraint they've given in your POE, but you are first year students, is that you haven't used this company in the past 18 months for any other varsity college assessment. So just say you have failed this module 3 times, which you couldn't have because it wasn't in this format, other than last semester. But just say you did this module last semester and you failed it, you couldn't use the same company this semester. That's the only constraint they've given. So yeah, anything you like, providing you can do what you need to do on those tasks. What else? What else needs to be said now? But certainly in the next week or so, go through. Don't worry about part 2 and the final. Don't go there. It just makes you scared. Just focus on the 2 bites of the elephant now. But be mindful that the company that you choose is taken through the whole POE to the end. So pick something that you're interested in. Then it should be fun. Any more questions, everybody? Anything? No, are we all good? Awesome. No, you are so welcome. I mean, when I saw this POE, I went, oh my goodness, that is just a lot of paper. But when we break it down, it's fine. And as you know, I am an email away. As you know, that these everything is recorded, and we are with you. We are with you along the way. Another piece of advice is please don't miss that national support session. That's very important. Very, very important for you. We get all the groups together. We make sure we're consistent. We give the kind of finer details. And yeah, just don't miss that session. But you guys online tonight are very good. Your attendance is excellent. So if nothing else, thank you very much for your time, everybody. Sorry it's been a long one, but it was good to kind of have our little POE introduction now that we know what's going on. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Have good coffee or good wine or even good Coca-Cola. And I will see you in 2 weeks' time, but we will be in touch along the way. So thank you very much, everybody.